We begin with the New York City mayoral race, where Zohran Mamdani continues to build momentum with Democratic endorsements. This week, he picked up support from the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, New York Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, New York State Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie, and Governor Kathy Hochul. The governor made her endorsement official with an essay in the New York Times, writing that she is, quote, confident that Mamdani has the courage, urgency, and optimism New York City needs to lead it through the challenges of this moment. Here's what Governor Hochul had to say about her decision.
Yesterday, I endorsed Zohran Mamdani. I've made it very clear that we have differences, but I also believe that he brings a sense of optimism and the can-do spirit, a positivity that I believe our city needs at this time. I do not agree with many of his views, but running a state government or a city government is very different. It's about making sure that the garbage gets picked up, the streets are safe.
There are still some key holdouts who have yet to offer their endorsements, including House Minority Leader Congressman Hakeem Jeffries and Senate Minority Leader Senator Chuck Schumer. But Mamdani is currently on track to win this race with or without their support. In recent polling by Marist in a crowded field, Mamdani leads former Governor Andrew Cuomo by more than 20 points. And in a head-to-head matchup, he's still up by double digits. But the race is far from over. Joining us now is the New York City mayoral candidate, New York State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani. Mr. Mamdani, thank you for coming to the weekend.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. Okay,
Assemblyman. So it is my understanding you're heading to a black church today. I believe that is
yes.
This will be your 12th visit to a black church. And I bring this up because in the Democratic primary, you won only 8 of the city's 33 majority black neighborhoods in June. Former Governor Cuomo came out on top in 25 of them. And I'm just wondering, can you possibly win the mayor's race outright without gaining the trust of those black voters who cast a ballot in the primary for Governor Cuomo?
You know, I'm glad that we won't have to tackle that hypothetical because of the fact that we are leading with black voters right now across New York City. And it's a lead that I've seen when I speak, especially to elder black voters who come up to me and tell me that it was their children, it was their niece, it was their nephew, it was their grandkids that told them about this campaign. And it's a campaign to make this the most expensive city in the United States of America, one that's actually affordable for each and every New Yorker. And we're having this conversation amidst what is essentially a reverse of the Great Migration, where this city has lost more than 200,000 black residents over the last few decades. And that is something that is a direct result of this affordability crisis and a direct result of government too often pretending that it's a bystander when, in fact, it's an actor in a question of whether we exacerbate this cost of living crisis or whether we resolve it.
And Assemblyman, to your point, the latest Marist poll of black support in this race proves what you were just saying. You have 47% black support. Andrew Cuomo has 26%, and you see current mayor Eric Adams, the incumbent mayor, at 11%.
Assemblyman, you have over.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, please. I was just going to say yes.
he's like correct. He's like the polling is correct. You have. Over years, as a lot of people do, and especially when they start running for higher office, there are things that you said in 2020, defund the police, and decisions like that you said you wouldn't do. And so I guess what I'm curious about is what, other than the 3 things that you always talk about during that primary, when it comes to the kinds of things that folks think of you for, right? President Trump has called you a communist. You're a democratic socialist. Those are different ideologies, to be clear. What are the policy prescriptions at the top of your list other than housing affordability?
You know, I actually think that affordability is the root of so many of the different issues. Yeah. But as you've said, it's not just for those 3 that I've brought up. It's also the fact that when we speak about housing, for example, we have a city of 8.5 million people. 2.5 million live in rent-stabilized housing, of which our commitment to freeze the rent would ensure that they would pay the same rent next year as they do this year. And that also includes 500,000 black tenants across these 5 boroughs. But there are about more than 1 million New Yorkers who are homeowners, and they too feel this crisis of affordability. They feel it in Mayor Adams' administration raising the water bill to the highest it's been in 13 years. They feel it when Con Edison increases gas and electric by $65 a month. And when I speak, especially to older black New Yorkers, I hear a lot about the plight of deed theft, which is something that has occurred since 2015 more than 3,500 times across New York City. And it's part of why we've put forward a commitment to create the Office of Deed Theft Prevention that would actually go out proactively to speak to older New Yorkers to ensure that if they want to create their will, if they want to resolve questions of their inheritance, they can actually do so with the help of city government, learning from what Pennsylvania did with the Tangle Title Fund, as opposed to leaving them prone to be exploited by someone who knocks on that door, says they want to help, and in the end is looking to steal that property from them.
Assemblyman, you know, the things that people know you for, like the free buses and the free grocery stores. Can you point to a place that is like the United States, right? Those are things that we haven't really tried here. Can you point to a place outside the United States that has worked, that is a country similar to the United States?
You know, I just first want to correct you in that it's not free groceries, it's cheaper groceries.
Cheaper groceries,
and they would be 5 of them, 1 of them in each borough. Right. But free buses and this program of a municipal-owned grocery store of 5 across the city of New York, these are rooted, first I would say, in examples across the country. But if we think about free public transit, you know, we have seen it take place both at city levels in Europe as well as countrywide levels. And even there was an article in the New York Times about what it meant for older South Koreans to have the ability to ride their subway and the exploration that it gave them of the place that they called home. And I think, you know, earlier today there was a conversation being had about Boston and Mayor Wu and her incredible leadership. And I think one of the things that I've noticed in what she's done and how she's led her city is that emphasis as well on fare free bus transit. And it was an inspiration for me when I launched a campaign in the state legislature to win free buses across the city, that I could look at Boston, I could look at Route 28 that Mayor Wu made free, and I could see that when you made it free, you didn't just mean that everyone could ride that bus. It didn't just mean that it would be a safer ride. It also meant that you were making it a quicker ride because you reduced the dwell time at the bus stop by 23%.
Assemblyman, thanks for joining us. You have encouraged people to come out and vote for you, vote against 2 people who you have called corrupt in different ways. But in 2024, you endorsed the Leave It Blank campaign. You told everyone to stay home and not to turn out against someone who was at the time facing 88 criminal offenses across 4 criminal cases. Do you regret encouraging people to stay home during that election? And do you think that Trump has served Gaza well?
I want to be very clear. I never encouraged anyone to stay home. I encouraged them to take part in the Democratic primary process, a process within our own party, to voice a displeasure with our party's continued support of a genocide. And I think that the critically important thing here is that our party reconnect with the values and the morals of the people that are actually the basis of the power of our party, which are rank and file Democrats. And what I've found across this city is a deep despair about the ways in which this current administration has not only exploited the pain of so many across this country, but has also run on a message of peace only to exacerbate those same issues that we've seen, whether we're speaking about Gaza or across the world.
Assemblyman, as you may or may not know, I worked on Mayor Bloomberg's first campaign for mayor. So I'm just wondering, you are running to be mayor of New York City. So who do you look to among the previous mayors as someone you would most try to emulate? Is it Mayor Dinkins, the Democratic mayor, Mayor Giuliani, the Republican mayor? Stop it, Eugene. Mayor Giuliani, Mayor Bloomberg, who ran as a Republican the first term, ran as a Republican in re-election, and then ran as an independent in the third term, or Mayor de Blasio?
You know, I would take something from each of these administrations, and I'll just go through them. You know, Mayor Dinkins was the mayor who spoke about the gorgeous mosaic of New York City. He was the first democratic socialist mayor that we'd seen in generations. And
Undeclared.
Mayor Giuliani, for all of my disagreements with him, was also a person who brought about free public transit through the Staten Island Ferry. And I think that's also a history that our push for free bus transit is a part of. Mayor Bloomberg was someone who brought 850 acres of new green space across New York City and a style of management and service delivery that I think we would do well to emulate. And Mayor de Blasio was the man who delivered universal pre-K and took what was otherwise tens of thousands of dollars on an annual basis off the backs of working parents. And I think for too long, we have sought to portray any politics that came before us in the mayoral administrations on the basis of who led it or how you feel about them, as opposed to an assessment of merit. And that, for me, that assessment of merit, that assessment of excellence, that's at the heart of how I view the importance of government and who I will surround myself with when we lead City Hall. It will be those that everyone can look at and say, this is a track record of delivery, and these are the people who will deliver this affordability agenda.
Quite the history lesson on the New York mayors there. Before we let you go, the World Cup will be in your area if you are mayor next year. I want to pull up this story from the New York Times from June 8th. The real important question here is there are folks that are concerned, very concerned, about what kind of ICE raids could happen ahead of the World Cup. So if you're mayor, what do you do to protect and defend, I guess, the immigrants who are going to be here, not just that are already here, folks that are going to be coming in from all over the world into the New York, New Jersey area from those potential ICE raids?
You know, I think it's as you said, the World Cup is this incredible opportunity to reintroduce ourselves, not just to the world, but also to this city that we call home. And I'm proud that I would be the first immigrant mayor of this city in generations, representing a city where 40% of its residents were born outside of the country. And this is a city that welcomes the world. And yet, as you've said, this administration's policies have been anything but that. And we don't even need to wait for the World Cup. Their immigration policies have meant the pursuing of a 6-year-old girl here in Queens, deporting her, leaving one seat empty in her classroom for all of her classmates to ask where their friend is. It has meant the continued harassment of a New Yorker, Mahmoud Khalil, who they are continuing to try and deport either to Algeria or Syria. And yet, as you've said, we know that these efforts could only intensify with the coming of the World Cup. And so we've made it very clear that our campaign is one that stands by the actual enforcement of the law as it is here in New York City with sanctuary city policies that have kept us safe. I would also commit to increasing the staffing of our law department by 200 to bring us back to pre-COVID levels, and to ensure that when we look at this city, we are using every tool at our disposal to keep New Yorkers together, to keep families together. 400,000 of our residents are right now in urgent risk of deportation. The city knows that when it provides legal assistance to those same New Yorkers, their chances of going home increase 11-fold, and yet it has only assisted fewer than 200 of those New Yorkers. That's why also a cornerstone of our campaign is a commitment to increase funding for those very legal defense services by more than $100 million so that we can ensure we're taking every step we can to keep New Yorkers safe, to keep New Yorkers together, and to show the world that they are welcome in this city.